I try to get better. My kids are like, "Mommy, we know you're trying, but you still do a lot." I'm sorry.
Mhm. All right. So, welcome everyone to another podcast in support of the Healthy Dog Expo. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Julia Roach, who is a holistic veterinarian based in Tennessee, and we're speaking about Dr. Harvey's products today. So, if you're joining us, please pop a comment in the chat and let us know where you're watching from. And as soon as we see how many people are in the room, we will be able to get started. And somebody popped in. It's funny, Dr. Roach, it always takes people a few minutes to click through,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden the room is full. It's a fascinating technology. So hello, people. And here they come. So
Hello.
we're supposed to get a snowstorm tomorrow. Are
Uh,
you getting weather down there or no?
no, it's just cold. I would love snow.
Are you from Tennessee originally?
I have to say yes. So I've been here since sixth grade. So that's a
Oh,
long time.
wow.
I'm
And
42.
and
Okay.
where were you before that?
West Palm Beach, Florida.
So you were always snow-free relatively.
Yes. We get it. I live on the mountain in
Uh,
Tennessee. So
uh-huh.
we'll, if there's a chance, but it's been a couple years since we've
Yeah,
got it.
yeah. I think, this particular storm that we're lined up for is gonna drop 6 to 12 inches
Wow.
depending on, and that's a good sized snowfall for us lately. That's, a lot at once for January.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't mind being in. I'd be okay with
Oh,
that.
I think yesterday when I left work, all the technicians were griping that the storm was happening on the weekend because they really wanted a snow day for Monday. All right, so the room is filling up, and somehow comments are not coming through, guys. So if somebody on my team could pop, oh, Janet's here. Janet is one of my team members.
Hi,
Uh,
Janet.
Great. I was worried that the comment section was not going to be viable today. So, welcome everyone. I'm here with Dr. Roach, and we're going to jump right into talking about Dr. Harvey's food and using it. So, welcome. How did you find Dr. Harvey's, Dr. Roach? Give me your backstory.
All right. Go. 2018, my husband and I decided to try a ketogenic diet for ourselves for mental clarity. At that same time, it paralleled with I had a 15-year-old dog that was pretty senile, pacing, following me around,
Mhm.
high anxiety, shaking. And since I had this newfound appreciation of a ketogenic diet, I was like, hey, I wonder if there's something out there for dogs. Then I found Dr. Harvey's. I have an array of
And
what
she
I
has props.
I
You're
am
setting the standard high here.
a Dr. Harvey's walking commercial because I love them so much, and it's very authentic, true love. So just to show you, this is what I started with. I
That's
consider
that's paradigm, correct?
yes,
It's
paradigm.
it shows up backwards on the screen because of the
Um,
camera.
yes.
So we'll
Um,
just be sure to mention the name. And thanks, Janet, for putting in the link to Dr. Harvey's website.
Perfect. So I ordered it, got it, started feeding it to his name is Muttley.
Mhm.
Um, and 2 days later, he slept throughout the night. And I was like, that's weird.
Yeah,
Of
yeah.
course,
Now, you mentioned you were pretty much a conventional vet prior to this,
100%.
conventionally trained.
I had Muttley on Prozac. I threw everything conventional, pharmaceutical at him
Mhm.
for good year, trying to calm them down, and it just progressed, got worse and worse.
And
Uh,
what did you feed prior to making this jump to Dr. Harvey's?
Fun is Purina Pro Plan, their joint diet, their prescription veterinary recommended joint diet. And They fed all my dogs that for, over 10 years. And
Mhm.
vets do a
Yeah.
real price on it, free. And
Mhm.
then vet school, I was getting it 50% off. So to my door.
Yeah.
So are a little brainwashed on what to feed. And, it comes with
Yeah.
perks.
Yeah. And thank you for being so honest about that because they hear that speech kind of from me. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
when I was a vet student, we could buy Science Diet for $10 for a pound
Yep.
bag, and, it was brainwashing in a
Mm-hmm.
way,
Yep.
and we've all had that dog that flipped our world on its side and made a huge difference, and if like, you can see the comment section, Alexis just mentions as well as Janet about what's going on with Purina. Um, and I can tell you guys, Susan Thixton is on it. Some various other people are on it. And if you have a problem and you're watching this because you're feeding Purina, write FDA. Let's get involved and see what's really going on. So anyway, your dog just magically improved.
Yes. 2 days. So, and when I say magically, he hadn't slept throughout the night in months. So, my husband was like, and so, about a week into it, after I started, you have to slowly tailor off Prozac and
Mhm.
everything, like a fresh, jump start.
Right.
But after about a week into it, I stayed up late at night and I was like, all right, because it's not cheap to feed raw. So it's like, all right, let's, get a pad and say this medication's divided by this many days and this and that. And so I was adding up because at that time I had 6 dogs that
Oh,
were all
wow. Yeah.
all kind of my teenage dogs. So I wrote it down. I was like, all right, is this much for this dog? Because I was kind of expecting my husband to give me kind of a pushback, being like, this is a lot of money.
Mhm.
Um, but when I woke up, I was like, all right, honey, I'm going to put all our dogs on, Dr. Harvey's. And he was
Yeah.
like, okay. I was like, wait a minute. I was like,
Mhm.
don't. It's like, well, obviously it works. And
Yeah.
I was like, I stayed up all night and picked,
Yeah. Made a spreadsheet and
out.
everything.
Which side note, it wasn't much more per day to actually
Yeah.
Dr. Harvey's and raw versus when you take every medication and you're like, all right, that's $1 a day. And,
Mhm.
break it down to that, it's not much more.
Yeah. Um,
So after that, kind of expanded my view. I actually personally wrote Wendy at CEO because we didn't have a relationship at that point.
mhm.
I her and said, "Hey, I had this experience. Thank you so much. Y'all are amazing." And then she called, we talked. Wendy is amazing. She actually opened my eyes to the
Yeah.
holistic world.
Yeah.
Uh, Told me about the conference, the American Holistic Conference. Never been there. Went there. Luckily, they have a first timers, beginners, holistic
Mhm.
days of it. And so I sat there and absorbed everything. And since then, continue to go to the conferences every year and just keep pushing through.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much to learn, and it can be so overwhelming, when you start off and you hear conflicting stuff. So, it's so good they have that beginner track at
Mhm.
AHVMA.
Definitely.
So you do a lot of foster care,
I do. Um,
and what do you do for those dogs? Where do they come from? What's the background?
So I am a strictly spay and neuter vet. I went to vet school, passion for shelter animals, spay and neuter, overpopulation. So holistically, I really incorporate it to my own life with my own. I have
Mhm.
5 of them now. I started fostering big time about a year and a half ago. Since then, I've we've pushed through about 40 animals. Um, in that time, I was waiting for my kids to get old enough to respect animals. They're now 9 and 10 years old because you have to put your kids first. And I'm like, if that dog
Mhm.
needs to know, we have to know the signs. Um,
Yeah.
I get my dogs. I'm very attached to a rural shelter in Boaz, Alabama. It's called Second Chance. Unfortunately, not a lot of people go there to see their dogs. So they have dogs that are there 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. So of course, when I get these dogs, they come with a lot of problems. So I kind of have my pharmacy of Dr. Harvey's because I feed and use them all for my own dogs. So I always have them available. And then depending on, what I'm seeing is what I pull out and start treating. So,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
mean,
How
we,
long is the average foster dog with you? Or what's
uh,
the range you've dealt with?
so it kind of depends. I like to have started out as I was supposed to only have one at a time, my dear husband.
Mhm.
Now I usually have a medical foster, a happy go lucky foster that is adoptable, pretty quickly, and then a very timid, scared foster that I'm going to have for months.
Mhm.
Um, I kind of have a array of dogs, and then as soon as I get one adopted, I replace that dog with whatever it took the place of.
Whatever that slot that's open.
Exactly. So it's a continuous cycle, and it's very rewarding.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
but all Dr. Harvey's products, I incorporate. I take the dogs as if I'm fostering and keeping them myself, and I do what I would do for them personally,
Yeah.
to get them to where they need to be adopted.
Yeah. Janet has asked this question twice. I think we can summarize it. You kind of alluded to your spreadsheet when you wanted to convince your husband. Um, and was it as simple as just making a column on the left and the right with the costs and, just as simple as that?
It really was. So I was doing like say Dasequin with MSM.
Mhm.
And a lot of these products I got at a discount being a veterinarian, and
Right,
it's
right.
that different. I'm calling
Yeah.
in scripts and I'm getting them myself. This is not including having to go to the vet to get this script or,
Mhm.
vet for recheck
Yeah.
blood work. I do this all by myself. So yeah, at that point when I stayed up late at night, it was, every day Dasequin for 6 dogs is this much. And I
Yeah.
even broke in a pro plan joint diet, how much that comes up to.
Mhm.
I was giving Muttley Prozac, a lot of unfortunately probiotics. That was Purina, um, kind of a smorgasbord of supplements and things that I thought I was, taught to do. So
Right.
yeah, very simple. It costs this for this medication. I'm giving these supplements, this food, and then Dr. Harvey's price. And, I love the base mixes myself because I like to add in my own proteins because
Mhm.
personally, pasture raised,
Yeah. You have access.
so I like to add in those myself. But yes, at that
Yeah.
time,
And I think this is a perfect point to comment that Dr. Harvey's offers the best of both worlds. You
mm,
have nutritionally complete formulations that you just rehydrate and serve, like the allergy, and that comes as a turkey too, if I'm correct?
I'm sorry.
I think the allergy formula comes both in turkey and beef or fish and
Uh,
beef. Might be
yes.
fish, yeah.
Uh,
And the base mixes which you add the protein.
yeah. I think the allergy is turkey and salmon.
That could be.
I think so.
So, uh and Katie, it's so nice to hear from you. Katie is one of my people that moved from New York to Alaska.
Mm,
And as she's pointing out, in some places it's hard to find premixes, but Dr. Harvey's is you can buy it on Amazon if you need to. You can
mhm.
get it pretty much anywhere. And I'm so jealous. We went out fishing and got these beautiful
Oh,
fish from the waters of Alaska and moose and other proteins that we don't have easy access to.
that's amazing.
It is amazing. And
Mhm.
Follow Katie if you want to see amazing photos of Alaska. It is beautiful, breathtaking, and everything people tell you about.
Yeah, my tech actually just went there and she said she highly recommends it. I'm like, it's always been on my to-do list, but it's so
Yeah.
far with kids.
My mother actually went on a cruise around there, and she said it was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So we digress, as we so often do here. Um, so, you saw the light really in a way that many veterinarians who go from the conventional to the alternative side do, with a little twist of, yourself being part of this. How did you find out about keto for humans?
It was a podcast I listened to.
Okay.
Joe Rogan. I'm a big
Okay, Joe Rogan, sure. And
fan.
then when you were researching the veterinary stuff, did you come across, like, the Keto Pet Sanctuary and their work?
Did, did. Yes, that was actually the main one.
Yeah,
And then or one that uses Paradigm. So yeah,
yeah,
exactly that direct
yeah.
line.
They unfortunately folded the sanctuary, but their information is still widely circulated and is a great foundation for people starting to learn about vet bills, about, ketogenic diets and what they're useful for. So do you work at all with shelters to try to get them feeding better, or, as you're going in and doing your spays and neuters?
So we definitely have, I guess I have talks with, let's say a dog comes in for a spay or a neuter and they have really bad skin and I decline
Mhm,
their. So we actually do go, talk about what they can do. Unfortunately, the people that I spay and neuter for are very low income.
yeah,
But we talk about adding coconut oil in or
right,
pumpkin, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
simple anyone can,
There's always simple things, and it doesn't have to be so expensive. Um,
exactly.
but yeah, it is tough when you're working with people on a fixed income.
Yeah, it is.
Um, Definitely. Janet's got an interesting question. The differences in the different formulations. We have raw vibrance, we have paradigm, we have the vegetable.
Mm,
And since you use a lot of the product line, can you
I do.
speak to that?
So my favorite three that I rotate are, of course, Paradigm, um, and then Raw Vibrance, and this one's heavy, Canine Health.
Okay.
Um, so I picked those. Paradigm, of course, is the ketogenic diet. I use that for my older guys.
Mhm.
Um, it's they're gonna see the most results for a ketogenic diet. You can also use the Paradigm for puppies. Raw Vibrance I add in. It seems to be more fruits and vegetables kind of. It's a newer line of theirs.
Right. Yeah.
I rotate this throughout. This I believe unless you talk to a holistic veterinarian, you don't want to use just for puppies. So this I rotate in and out with my own dogs and fosters. And I'd say the one that I use most that this magic stuff, Canine Health, and it was
Mhm.
I believe their first product that they had.
I think it is. Yeah.
I use that, I'd say mostly because a lot of adult dogs, I feel like they do well on that one. And it's more oats in it. So,
Yeah,
um,
that contains grain.
exactly. And I'm personally not worried about the grain issue because I feed Dr. Harvey's and I'm adding my own
You're adding
meats.
protein, yeah.
So I'm not concerned as far as grain free or
Yeah. I think most of our audience is pretty educated on that whole issue.
yes.
Um, so, the Dr. Harvey's Base Mix, one of the things that I appreciate about them is they address the fat concern, which
Hmm.
others do not,
Hmm.
and they always encourage you to add, some sort of oil.
Yes.
Uh, how much variation do you do with your proteins that
As far as
you add to the base mix? How
the
many proteins do you use, say, per week?
okay, so I rotate. I know you want to at least rotate per week. I have 5 dogs myself and fosters, so I rotate pretty quickly. I get my proteins from Raw Feeding Miami, so they have a lot of assortment. I
Mhm.
do their grind, their beef grind. They've got an organ mash. So eggs are always my choice when I'm. Oh, I forgot to,
You're a little short.
right. I'm like, sorry, household. Now we're gonna have eggs for a little bit. So I would say liver, basically anything that they have, and of course I go off of what they have for sale and such like that.
Mhm.
But I do a lot of organ meat, heart. I do beef heart, which is more considered a muscle. I know it sounds weird, but I try to use the leftovers of an animal
Mhm.
because that's getting the most use of them. And, I'm not taking away from the human area,
Right.
except I like the
Yeah.
fact that you all the animal. So yeah, I rotate a lot for sure, just
And
because
what species primarily are you using, or
I would say
you really cross over?
I'd say chicken and beef are my um, two main ones that I would use back and forth. Of course, I add in turkey and fish and
Mhm.
sardines like that.
Yeah.
So I say pretty wide.
Yeah. Um, and in terms of the oils, specifically omega-3s, Janet's wondering about people who only, well, of course, we know coconut oil is not an omega-3 source, and some of the other plant oils and algal oils. What are your thoughts on omega-3s?
Whale, of course. So Dr. Harvey's, they have two options. So oils are another thing that I rotate. And personally, I use all of it up and then I'll rotate to another one. But a lot
Okay.
of oils, I'll use organic olive oil, I'll use organic coconut oil. And those are usually my four that I just keep going back and forth. A
Mhm.
lot I do get, from fish that I personally give as the protein. But I do add oils to every meal and just kind of those four as we go along.
Yeah, I feel it's really important to pay attention to the fat content,
Hmm.
and be sure that those fats have not gone rancid as they do in kibble in a very short amount of time.
Yep.
And, for my team who don't know this yet, uh, cocoa therapy is coming to the Expo. They confirmed, and I'm so excited, as is 4 Leather again, which is the best shampoo line out there.
Awesome.
So all 3 of those ladies will be joining us.
Those cocoa girls are so cute.
Oh my god. And they are so well educated,
Are.
and yeah, they are awesome, they are fun, and I think the thing that blew me away, because they were with us last year, how many donuts they eat.
I know,
You know,
right?
you look at them and they are petite, fit women, and they were in the Dunkin' Donuts, selection
Oh,
very deeply.
that's funny.
Um, we to digress for a moment, at last year's expo, and I hope this doesn't happen again, um, there was a water main break in the area of the hotel that affected water to all of the surrounding area, and so when I was supposed to have coffee for my exhibitors, I had it all ordered up from the Dunkin' or Bruegger's, I forget who we used. They couldn't make coffee. The bagel shop shut down because they couldn't boil the bagels. It was awful, so we were left with donuts, and here we are, the Healthy Dog Expo, serving donuts.
All right. You got
It was wild, and the hotel, staff was running around giving everybody bottles of water. It was a trip. It's a trip. Um, so yeah, so just checking the comments. They had Diane had molten lava cakes for dinner. Crazy, crazy.
all right.
Um, so when you're working your day job, and you're working with some of these clients that, are on a budget, you're getting them to do the little improvements. What if you've got a client that, you know, is not restricted that way, how do you get them switched onto Dr. Harvey's? What kind of transition plan do you use? Can you speak to that?
I do, and I love that. I always give my personal phone number if someone wants to talk to me
You're
about.
crazy.
I know. Luckily, I haven't had the issue just because I am a spay and neuter veterinarian, so it's not
Mhm.
like me. I'm like, hey, here's the holistic vet in our area.
Yeah.
But I kind of get a feel for their comfort level. Didn't mention, so when I started feeding Muttley, my senile dog, I was cooking the protein. So I was cooking liver in my
Mhm.
house.
Oh, geez.
It was awful. But
That
I was still in the mindset, no, you can't feed raw.
Mhm.
So I was still there. The reason I went to raw was a little bit out of laziness because I had 6 dogs when I changed it. I'm like, I am not cooking. I had
Mhm.
two toddler and an infant at that time.
Yeah.
So comfort level for the person that wants this change. The easiest, of course, I'm going to say Dr. Harvey's, they're complete meals. A lot of times we'll start on that. Once they get comfortable to that, then, I kind of incorporate the, everyone kind of knows that the raw mixes are my favorite, the ones that aren't complete that you add your own proteins, but we
Mhm.
get them. And if not, if they're happy with, the complete diets, yay. If they have allergies, I always do the complete diet allergy formula. If they're obese, then we go with their weight loss, formula for the complete as well. So if it's as simple as, depending on the size of the dog, how expensive
Mhm.
it gets. But if they're like, yes, let's do it, then, we start slow and then get the comfort level. And I always, tell people you can cook it. You
Yeah.
can cook meals. We're not going backwards there. You're giving them fresh meat. You're giving them,
Mhm.
and fruits and vegetables, everything that they need. So don't feel bad if you cook the diet. It's
Yeah.
perfectly nice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And how would you feel if someone said, "I'm gonna do half Dr. Harvey's, half kibble?"
So I say go for it.
Okay.
I used to be in the mindset of that you want to stay with one type because, complete imbalance type thing. But in my mind, kibble's not complete imbalance. So I'm fine adding in the Dr. Harvey's base mix, anything that you can get in there. Um, Rodney, what's it, Karen Becker, Rodney, he always.
Yeah.
Yes, he kind of like divided the meals. Like if you added 1/4 of fruits and vegetables
Mhm.
and all kibble, like the benefit that you're seeing. So I
Right.
definitely, as long as we're not going overboard as far as calories, but a little to me is a win. Even if it's, kibble in the morning and Dr. Harvey's at nighttime, that's
Sure.
a win.
Sure. Without a doubt.
Hmm.
Um, and it's interesting that you say kibble is not complete because I think of the people I talk to, none of us are fans of kibble, but you're the first person to make that statement.
I
What
do
makes
it.
you say that or put it that way?
So I guess I say it's not complete because I consider it cereal. My kids could survive off cereal, but am I going to let
Mhm.
them? I guess I shouldn't lump kibble into. So in my mind, there's kibble, big brand kibbles like Purina, Science Diet, things like that. And then we have, I guess, boutique kibbles. If I have a client or if I have a foster that's like, there's no way I'm going to feed raw, I'm like, okay. There are some, food choices that I would use. One is Origin, ORI, I
Yeah.
guess GN or GN. Um,
Yeah.
and I
The
picked.
problem with Origin is it's owned by Mars now.
Uh, when did that?
So it's yet another good brand falls victim to big
Uh,
pet food.
I mean, they're
And
so.
Acana as well. They bought the company that owns both.
That
And it's
seems inevitable,
and
doesn't it?
that's let's go back to Dr. Harvey's though. There is no way Wendy is selling out big
I
pet
know
food.
it's
I mean,
been there.
I think she would retire the company if it came down to that before she would do that. And for me, that's a company with integrity,
Hmm.
which is what we're all searching for.
Right, right.
Um,
So back to the
back to
kibble
the kibble.
thing.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Um, so there are Stella and Chewy's is another one that I would say, if we're gonna go dry food route, that's what I would recommend. So a lot of those ones have raw coated or pieces of raw meat in there. So again, I see that as a win. As far as I'm gonna say, as far as what I feel is not complete and balanced, I'm talking about that Purina prescription thing that I was feeding that had,
Mhm.
that just wasn't doing anything for their joints. That was another big, aha moment when I saw Muttley and all my dogs were seniors at that time running around. And I was like, oh gosh, and I felt horrible kind of buying into feeding kibble. So that's my personal view as far as, they add a lot of synthetic vitamins and minerals. So
Mhm.
I can't see how that in any way would be healthy to be, you know, lifelong, which unfortunately I did that for my dogs.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I feel I wish I came across Dr. Harvey sooner because a lot of my older dogs that had passed since then with a brain tumor and things like that definitely could have benefited. And I try to be at peace as I didn't know better, but I wish I did.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, and as Rodney said, when we know better, we do better.
It's true.
And you can't blame yourself for, what knowledge was not available to you back
Hmm. Yeah.
and couple that with the experience of vet school, with the promotion of these big pet food companies and the indoctrination, if you will, of buy
Hmm.
this and get it cheap and everything.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And vet students today hear from raw companies, generally speaking. They don't hear from Dr. Harvey's. The
Hmm.
schools actually, some of my audience knows I was able to get Billy Hookman from Answers, now from Green Juju, to speak to the Holistic Club at Cornell. And there was like a 10-page agreement that he had to sign
Oh, wow.
to be able to speak with them. And the things they could not do, they could not provide them with food. Billy's like, "Hey, I'll buy pizza for everybody." Couldn't do that. Couldn't so much as give them a pencil.
Wow.
But Hills could,
Yep.
Purina could.
Got a lot of things from them.
They got a lot of things, and they were specifically in the document exempted from these restrictions. It's crazy. It's crazy.
What is crazy too is, let's say Darwin's, they have a
Right.
veterinarian, they have a veterinarian. So why are we, so negative about raw feeding when it's not just all boutique?
It's not all bad. No.
It isn't. So it's just crazy that people haven't gotten on board as far as respecting it. You don't have to do it. It's, your choice. But
Mhm.
as yes, that is a viable option.
Yeah. Um, I just got a client who went to the emergency clinic over the weekend, and I got the report. And of course, it was one of my raw feeding clients. And in the report, because the dog was hospitalized, they said they would not feed a raw diet in the hospital because of the bacterial risk.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, have you never grilled chicken? You never thrown a steak in the pan or whatever? Did you make turkey for Thanksgiving? Raw meat is not dangerous. Wash your hands. But they put it in the report that they would not because of the bacterial risk to humans.
You know what I say to that? I'm like, your dog licks their butthole and then you get kisses from them. Like,
Yeah,
why are raw meat when
yeah,
there's
they
that?
go out and they eat dog poop or deer poop or bunny poop.
Yeah. I mean, it's the raw meat thing is very silly.
It's totally silly. And especially now that we've had, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of tons of kibble recalled for salmonella.
Mm.
And there's actually now a lawsuit from a person who, or it might be coming a class action suit, someone whose child was sickened by the Midwest kibble with salmonella and their pet as well.
Mm.
It's like that was from kibble, which
Right.
everybody in the conventional community believes is safe.
Yeah.
It's crazy, crazy, absolutely crazy. So let's see if we have more questions here. Um, Janet. And actually, your point on cooking, which I completely agree with. I've run into this as well, and I imagine you have, that some dogs just don't thrive on raw or it doesn't appeal to them.
Mhm. It's true.
And yeah, lightly cook it, just don't cook it to death. And before I saw a question scroll by about cat food. And I believe Dr. Harvey's has 1 or 2 cat formulas. Have you
I
worked with them at all? Or are
I
you
don't
strictly
think
dogs?
so. I think they're just dogs, and I personally have, as far as I'm just dog household, so
Yeah.
I have no experience feeding cats raw. So unfortunately, I have to direct all that to, your nearby veterinarian, holistic veterinarian. So I like to say what I do, and then if that works for them, to try it, and if they if it works, that works. But I just like to say what works for me and what works for my fosters and works for my dogs and my lifestyle, and people take
Yeah.
pieces of what they want from it.
Yeah. Well, and your lifestyle is busy because you have a whole bunch of dogs.
Hmm.
You have a husband and 2 kids
Yep. Yep.
and a job.
Yep. So I stay very active. My fosters are considered my exercise because it's not just bringing dogs into the household. I have to get
Mhm.
them the household and prepare them to be adopted.
Yeah, yeah, and as you pointed out, some take more time than others for either physical or mental, reasons.
Definitely.
Hello, Patricia. Uh, so I think she's talking about her cats that do eat raw and cooked chicken, and Pat also has Australian Shepherds. Um, in terms of cats, I know it can be really tough to transition a cat to any sort of fresh food plan, and I know Dr. Becker has an excellent video talking about how she transitioned her mom adopted. And also the crazy cat ladies have some resources for getting cats to eat stuff. You'd think a cat who would go out and kill a rodent or a chipmunk or a bird and drag it around and chew on it, but put a piece of chicken in their bowl and they look like, you've tried to kill them.
Hmm.
They can be so challenging.
Definitely.
Uh, and
They're,
it's
they're
just
pro.
crazy. Yeah, I confess I am not a cat person when it comes to who lives in my household, so I'm a dog only, thing.
Yeah. I don't
Um,
think dogs would accept a cat very well.
oh, I hadn't even thought of yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, because you don't know who's coming into your house next. It
exactly.
might be something that is not cat safe.
Mhm.
I always think of the greyhound adoption clinics that we had out here, and each dog was classified cat safe or not cat safe.
Right, right. Yeah, unfortunately, when I get asked that question, I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't have any cats.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
kind
but
of the
it's your answer honest, I can't fault you for
right.
that. Um, Diane brings up an interesting point of the people who read a little bit about raw feeding or they hear a little bit, and the next thing you know, they're throwing a boneless chicken breast and frozen peas and carrots in a bowl
Yep.
and calling it a meal.
Yeah. Um,
And isn't that the most frustrating thing?
it is, and that's kind of what kept me from, I guess, voicing out how to not really how to feed raw, but that I feed raw. I always have to clarify. I use base mixes.
Mhm,
I and not formulate a raw diet for it to be complete and balanced. I am a veterinarian and I cannot do that myself. I need help. So, yeah, it kind of scares me when they're like, "Oh, we're adding this and this and this." I'm like,
mhm,
I can't say that I agree with that. That's a veterinarian. Somebody to go over that with you. I can just say again what I do. But yeah, I don't like when
yeah,
I.
it makes my head hurt because I do formulate, and using animal diet formulator, it's very easy to do a nutritionally complete
Mhm.
meal, but, you have to wanna do it, you have to have the
Yep.
time, you have to be inclined to play with numbers and such, and you have to have sourcing.
Yeah.
Um, for those folks who can't do that, it's like, yes, either buy a recipe and follow it to a T, or use a base mix. And when I'm traveling with my dogs, when I go to dog camp, I don't have as much refrigeration. I don't have access to a freezer, significant freezer. A bag of Dr. Harvey makes my life simple, and my dogs are still sitting on the quality of food that I want them on, and it just is so easy.
So we go camping a lot, and
Oh,
we
yeah?
always, of course, have we have an electric cooler now, that's hooked up to a generator. But when we go camping, I still feed Dr. Harvey's. It's just egg
Mhm.
time, and so I just do eggs with them,
Yeah.
and that is
Well, and
really,
I'll travel with canned sardines,
yeah.
eggs, it's a short period of time, and, the purist is like, "Oh, I must have my complete raw grind." For 5 days, it's not a big deal.
Okay. All right.
Not a
I
big deal at all. Uh, Robin, hey, Robin, another one of my people. Um, the prescription diets, going back to, Hill's Purina, pick your brand of therapeutic or prescription diet. How in the world do dogs get better on those? I've never seen it. Have you?
no,
Realistically?
like, and it's funny because I mean, I had a foster that was having seizures, a little like 8-week old Great Pyrenees.
Mhm,
And so we just so happened to bring the puppy into another veterinarian, and they did blood work, and the blood work showed that low red blood cell count, was kind of anemic, and they recommended, and I didn't even know it existed. I can't remember what big brand, but it was a seizure diet, and it was dry, and I was like,
oh,
wait,
yeah, it's, Purina has it. I think it's called Brain Diet, BD, or something,
well,
NeuroCare.
yeah, it's something more though. I feel like it had
Oh, yeah.
seizure else in the
Yeah,
name that I
yeah,
was like, oh, that's interesting. And I'm polite and like, okay, tell me about it. And then I said, okay, that might work for them. Whoever, I had the dog
mhm,
was out at that point, but I want to give a healthy animal or a plan with the animal
mhm,
type. And so luckily they accepted my spiel
mhm.
of, and they do base mixes, and they actually go to a butcher and get their meats from them.
Ooh, nice.
Incorporated into their diet is liver. So I was like, you're going to be training. Let's just give liver to help, anemia. And, again, this is just one time, one case. I'm not going to say it works for everyone. In my experience, since we did a raw diet with Dr. Harvey's, and then we added the little liver treats raw for it, training such purposes. She has since had a seizure since then. We have not repeated blood work because unfortunately
Mhm,
she's in about 2 hours away from me.
mhm.
But her back to spay her, I think, within the next couple months. And I just want to know. So I was
Yeah, you
going to,
wanna know. Yeah, yeah,
of course, doing that procedure, but we keep in close contact, and she has since had a seizure. Now I'm not going to say raw
that's
diet healed her, but it helped. So,
well,
um,
I will say it because my college dog was epileptic, and at that point, he was a Labrador. He was taking a grain and a half of phenobarb 3 times a day
mm,
to control his seizures. That was the drug of choice at that time,
yeah,
and then he got autoimmune hemolytic anemia because I was over vaccinating him. Uh, so dietary change to a food diet, eventually off pred for his, autoimmune hemolytic anemia, off anticonvulsants of all types, uh, lived to be 13, 14 without
awesome.
seizures. So it can work.
Yeah,
One thing I wanna circle back that you may not know that I've done is I'm involved with a lot of copper testing of liver, specifically beef liver. Most conventional liver has a lot of copper in it, and if
yeah,
you're using those freeze-dried liver treats, 5 of those chunks will meet the copper requirement for a 40-pound dog for the day.
For sure.
So people who are using liver that they don't know if it's conventionally raised or factory farmed, what have you,
Yep.
I would not use beef liver. We did testing on some free range cattle as well as grocery store conventional liver. The pasture-raised cattle were typically in 60 to 70 parts per million copper. The grocery store liver started in the high 300s and went over 1,000.
I believe it.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that data is out there at Check Your Pet Food, and you can get a copy of it if you like.
That's awesome. Yeah. Again, the diets that I feed from Raw Feeding Miami are always
Yeah,
pasteurized
yeah, raw
humanely.
food in Miami is top notch.
I mean, and it's better for the animals. It's how, we are. And, I'm actually a vegetarian.
Mhm.
Kids, I never wish that upon them.
Yeah,
Isn't either, but anything they eat is pasture raised, humanely raised, and I am 100% okay with that.
yeah,
If I eat, I would. It's just I just can't do the texture. So since vet school of what we learned, I just can't do it.
yeah,
But I want my kids to eat meat, and animals should eat meat for sure. But
yeah.
my philosophy is I don't want another animal to suffer to feed my dogs. So that's why I feed a lot of the insides of animals because
Mhm.
they would, or, just pasture raised, humanely raised.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. If all of us just had meatless Mondays, it would make a huge impact
mhm. Yeah.
on on the meat industry.
Yeah.
But I was blown away at the differences between factory farmed animals
Yeah.
and pasture raised. Wants to know, are you coming up to the expo? Are you going to be at the Dr. Harvey's booth?
I am not. The ones that I can go to their American Holistic Veterinary Medical Association ones are I go every year. It's kind of hard for me to pull
Logistically,
from life, 2 kids, husband. Right now I have 8 dogs, 5 of
mhm.
my own, and then work Monday through
Yeah,
Thursday. So
yeah,
as far as me going on vacation or doing something fun like your expo, it takes a lot of planning.
I
So I
can
just
imagine.
do 2 big ones in the same year, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So any other points we didn't cover for people? Anything you can think of? Oh, I like Robin's comment here. This is just common sense. Oh, have you ever run into Balance It? You know,
Um, Way I've heard of that is at the conference. I think
yeah.
vets uses it.
People use it, and basically you can put whatever ingredients you want together, and then they will give you a supplement that will make it nutritionally complete. A complete
Mhm.
bottle of synthetics that's not adjusted necessarily for what you're feeding, and it's like, I don't know how veterinarians fall for it.
All right, all right, all right.
Mhm. And more love for Dr. Harvey's.
Mhm. Yes.
Um, oh, and I wanted to say, I remembered, it is the Purina Vet NeuroCare, and
Yes.
that their claim was for seizure control, and then they kinda said, "Oh, and it's good for cancer too."
Okay.
But really, it was still 40% carbs, and they added MCT oil to it, and that was how they tweaked the formulation and got whatever data that they could to support the seizure claim or anti-seizure claim.
Yeah. All the new ones that have come out since, unfortunately, I'm in my little hole. I guess, unfortunately, fortunately.
Yeah,
Like I,
fortunately.
I only know about them if I have to go to a conventional vet. And I'm like, what is that?
Oh god, it's overwhelming when the, uh, company reps come in
Hmm.
and put out their display of pamphlets and books and how you can have a formulation for everything. Then you've gotta have a cheap target. There are so many, formulas. Since it's insane. It's insane. Okay, and Michelle is feeding or Michelle Culver had some MCTs, mast cell tumor, and switched to Dr. Harvey's. and she's been cancer-free for 2.5 years.
It's awesome.
It's awesome. All right, excellent. Well, thank you for taking the time today to chat and, answer all these questions.
Of
I
course.
am so grateful, and I know we have 2 more sessions with Dr. Harvey's scheduled out, so perhaps you'll be back.
Okay. This is easier to do than come somewhere. So,
Yeah. Oh, and people can find you on Instagram and Facebook, right, if they wanna follow up with some questions?
yep. I actually have a blog as well, our five
Yeah,
dogs.
I think we have that link as well. Someone will drop it in the comments.
And it
Uh,
also my own experiences with my dogs or my sister's dogs or my friend's
mhm,
dog. And then
yeah,
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 that's what.
so feel free, folks, to, read the blog, comment, and hit you up with questions on either of the socials. So excellent. This has been fun. I'm so glad that you were able to take the time, and I will let you take your kids on their adventure.
Right.
They were so good about being out from underfoot.
I had to bribe them, guys. I had to bribe them that
Hey,
to
you do what it takes. You
hobby
do
love.
what it takes.
So,
All right. Thank you so much, guys, and, feel free to comment on this when it goes recorded, and again, I'll check it for questions. Take care and have a great weekend.
all right, you too.